Ever wondered why Nigeria, a country swimming in oil, still struggles with poverty? We're talking about Africa's largest oil producer, a nation that pumps out nearly 2 million barrels of crude every single day. The numbers are staggering. At today's prices, that's billions upon billions of dollars flowing in every year. Logically, Nigeria should be one of the wealthiest countries on the continent, if not the world. Its citizens should enjoy a high standard of living, with excellent infrastructure, top-tier education, and world-class healthcare. But the reality on the ground tells a very different story. So, where does all that money go? Today, we're diving deep into a murky world that few dare to talk about. This isn't just about spreadsheets and government budgets. This is a story about a hidden pipeline, a system that siphons off incredible wealth before it ever has a chance to reach the people. And it's far more complex and shocking than you might imagine. Forget what you think you know about corruption. We're going beyond the headlines to uncover the mechanics of how a nation's treasure vanishes into thin air. Stick with me because what you're about to hear will change the way you see Nigeria and perhaps the global oil industry forever. Let's start with the basics. Nigeria's economy is overwhelmingly dependent on oil. It accounts for over 90% of export earnings and a huge chunk of government revenue. This black gold is the lifeblood of the nation. The process seems simple. Nigeria extracts oil, sells it on the international market, and the money comes back to fund the country. But right from the very first step, the system is designed to leak. The first major hole in the bucket is something called crude oil theft. Now, when you hear this, you might picture a few guys with jerrycans siphoning fuel. But that's not even close to the scale of what's happening. We're talking about industrial-scale operations. Sophisticated networks tap directly into major pipelines, diverting enormous quantities of crude oil onto massive barges and even ocean-going tankers. These illegal taps, or hot taps, are often engineered with such precision that they can go undetected for years. Think about it. A single large tanker can hold 2 million barrels of oil. That's an entire day's worth of Nigeria's official production, stolen in one go. Experts estimate that Nigeria loses hundreds of thousands of barrels per day to this kind of theft. Do the math. At a conservative estimate of 100,000 barrels a day, with oil at $80 a barrel, that's $8 million disappearing. Every single day. Annually, that's almost $3 billion. This isn't petty crime. It's a parallel industry run by powerful, well-connected syndicates. It requires incredible logistical coordination, protection, and access to international markets to sell the stolen crude. This is the first, and perhaps most blatant, part of the hidden pipeline. But the theft gets even more sophisticated. Let's talk about the numbers that are officially reported. Who is measuring the oil as it leaves the wellhead, goes through the pipeline, and gets loaded onto the ships? This is where it gets incredibly murky. There have been consistent discrepancies between the volume of oil that producers say they're pumping, what the pipeline operators report, and what is finally recorded at the export terminals. This lack of accurate, transparent metering is a breeding ground for manipulation. It's a system where millions of barrels can simply vanish on paper. It's not just physical theft, it's accounting theft. Without state-of-the-art metering technology at every stage, the country is essentially flying blind, trusting figures that can be easily massaged by vested interests. So, we have physical theft, and we have accounting discrepancies. But the hidden pipeline has another, even more legitimate-looking channel, the fuel subsidy scheme. This is a topic that causes massive debate and even protests in Nigeria. Here's how it's supposed to work. Nigeria has vast reserves of crude oil, but it lacks sufficient refining capacity. So, it exports its crude oil, and then imports refined petroleum products like gasoline and diesel. Because the cost of imported fuel would be too high for the average citizen, the government pays a subsidy to fuel importers to keep the pump price low. It sounds like a noble idea, right? Helping the poor. But in reality, it has become one of the biggest avenues for corruption in the country's history. The system is opaque and riddled with fraud. Companies have been known to collect subsidy payments for fuel they never even imported. They present fake shipping documents, and the money is paid out. In other cases, a ship might bring in a certain amount of fuel, but the company will inflate the numbers on paper and claim a much larger subsidy. Sometimes, the subsidized fuel, which is meant for Nigerians, is smuggled out of the country and sold at a much higher price in neighboring countries. The smugglers make a massive profit, and the Nigerian government is left footing the bill for fuel that its own citizens never even used. The cost of this subsidy has been astronomical, sometimes costing the government more than its entire budget for education and healthcare combined. It has a mind-boggling transfer of wealth from the state treasury into the pockets of a select few fuel importers and their collaborators within the system. This isn't a leak, it's a gaping hole. Now let's connect the dots. The stolen crude oil, the underreported production volumes, and the fraudulent subsidy claims, they are all part of the same ecosystem. They feed off each other. The syndicates involved in oil theft are often the same powerful figures who benefit from the opaque subsidy regime. It has a closed loop of corruption that involves players at every level, local militants who provide muscle for the thieves' security forces who are paid to look the other way, officials in government, agencies who manipulate paperwork, and international traders who help launder the stolen oil into the global market. This isn't just a Nigerian problem, it's a global one. The stolen crude has to be sold somewhere. The dirty money has to be laundered. This often involves shell companies, complex financial transactions, and jurisdictions with lax banking regulations. It's a shadow economy that implicates actors far beyond Nigeria's borders. The high-end real estate in London, Dubai, and New York, the luxury yachts, the private jets, some of that is funded by the wealth being siphoned out of Nigeria's soil. So, what's the impact of all this on the average Nigerian? It's devastating. The money that should be building hospitals is instead buying mansions overseas. The funds that should be paving roads and providing electricity are funding a life of unimaginable luxury for a tiny elite. The revenue that should be creating jobs for millions of unemployed youth is disappearing into a black hole. This leads to a vicious cycle. Lack of development and opportunities fuels frustration and anger, which can lead to instability and conflict, particularly in the oil-producing Niger Delta region. This instability then provides the perfect cover for more oil theft, and the cycle continues. The environmental cost is another tragedy. The illegal tapping of pipelines often leads to spills and leaks that go uncleaned for years. These spills destroy farmland, contaminate fishing waters, and poison the drinking water of local communities. The Niger Delta, the very source of the nation's wealth, has become one of the most polluted places on Earth. The landscape is scarred by oil slicks and gas flares, a constant, painful reminder of the wealth that is extracted from the land but never benefits its people. Is there any hope? Can this hidden pipeline be dismantled? The answer is yes, but it requires immense political will and a multi-pronged approach. Firstly, transparency is key. Installing modern, tamper-proof metering systems at every stage of production and export is non-negotiable. Making all oil sales and revenue data public in real time would allow citizens and watchdog groups to scrutinize the numbers and hold the government accountable. Secondly, the security architecture in the oil-producing regions needs a complete overhaul. This isn't just about more boots on the ground. It's about using technology like drones and satellite surveillance to monitor the vast network of pipelines. It's also about tackling the high-level corruption within the security forces themselves. Thirdly, the subsidy issue must be addressed decisively. Whether it's complete removal coupled with direct cash transfers to the poor or investing heavily in domestic refining capacity to end the absurd cycle of exporting crude and importing finished products, the current fraudulent system is unsustainable. Building functioning refineries is a long-term solution that would not only save billions in subsidies, but also create thousands of jobs. Finally, international cooperation is crucial. Countries where this stolen wealth is hidden must step up their efforts to crack down on money laundering and help repatriate the looted assets. The story of Nigeria's disappearing oil money is a cautionary tale. It shows how a nation's greatest blessing can be turned into a curse by greed and corruption. But it's not a story without hope. There are countless brave journalists, activists, and honest officials in Nigeria fighting for change every day. The power of this hidden pipeline lies in its secrecy. The more we talk about it, the more we expose its mechanics, the weaker it becomes. Understanding this issue is the first step towards solving it. Nigeria's future and the well-being of its 200 million people depends on sealing these leaks and ensuring that the nation's wealth finally works for the nation's people. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up and share it. Spreading awareness is a powerful tool. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.